Sorry.
It's not live.
Wait. We are live now. Okay. Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Terima kasih kepada semua para panelis kita pada malam ini. Ada seorang lagi tak masuk. Okay, never mind. Nama saya Boon. Saya insyaAllah selaku host dan moderator untuk sesi dialog kita pada malam ini. Tuan lawyer kita baru masuk. Kita masukkan dia. Okay. For those yang watch, terima kasih semua para panelis dan juga para penonton yang menonton live pada malam ini dan juga insyaAllah mungkin selepas tengok recording selepas ini. Okay. Sebelum kita mulakan, saya rasa elok kita mungkin boleh bacakan sedikit doa dan Al-Fatihah untuk those yang dah meninggal. Hari ini 257. Kebetulan batchmate saya pun meninggal petang tadi. Semalam pun ada seorang expo. They're all about my age. Okay, Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Okay, all this talk is basically kita nak tengok macam how we can work together to win this battle, this against this invisible enemy. Pada bulan Mei 2021, Presiden SME Association Datuk Kang dalam satu kajian yang beliau lakukan di kalangan ahli SME menganggarkan about 40% daripada members akan gulung tikar, kalau the PKP 1.0 is repeat in the PKP 3.0 and probably close to 2 million people will lose their jobs. That's basically in May, and now it's 4th of August, basically 3 months after they made that statement. So we see how true is that statement. We got I think 4 people from different industries. Probably they can can testify in this talk. Untuk itu saya pada malam ni saya akan ditemani oleh rakan panelis saya. Yang pertama Yang Mulia Raja Ahmad Iskandar selaku pengarah komunikasi daripada REFSA. REFSA merupakan think tank untuk research for social advancement, but it's more from the opposition side. And of course second panelist none other than President Tab. Beliau juga merupakan mantan Presiden untuk Malaysian Association of Theme Park and Family Attractions or MATFA. I think it's basically industri yang paling teruk terkesan, the first to I don't know how fast they can recover. And the next one is basically my batchmate. Siapa ni? Tuan Haji Muhammad Farid bin Abdul Rahman. Dia merupakan pengasas Rafa Pharmacies dan juga Marketing and Training Director untuk True Life Science Holding. Basically a nutraceutical supplement company that basically incorporate the alternative supplements into the mainstream diet safely. Beliau juga ada lebih 20 tahun berkecimpung dalam industri farmasi dan juga retail. Apa khabar Tuan Farid? Baik, sorry yang lain tak tanya tadi.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay.
Alhamdulillah.
Panelis keempat merupakan saudara saya, of course, ada batchmate Zulkifli Yusof. Apa khabar Yusof? Sorry, apa khabar Zulkifli Yusof, his father, sorry.
Baik, Alhamdulillah.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Beliau merupakan pengasas dan juga CEO untuk He and She Coffee, sebuah retail outlets yang telah lebih 6 tahun berada dalam industri F&B. Dan yang last but not least, ini Tuan Peguam, wakil daripada industri guaman, sudah lebih 20 tahun juga berkecimpung dalam industri ini. Apa khabar Tuan Zahiran? Okay, Zahiran? Okay.
Alhamdulillah, Boon.
Alhamdulillah, okay. Okay, malam ni kita punya discussion basically santai. Santai, what I mean is basically like kedai kopi. You can speak in BM if you comfortable dengan BM. Kalau nak cakap English, we can mix basically rojak. And basically there is no like a rigid format. You know, everyone speak like 5 or 10 minutes, and the other one we have Q&As. Basically everyone can speak now. Probably but with the host, I'll try to make it a bit more fluid, and also as we progress, I'll take the question from the floor, and basically the audience live. We try to take their question as we go along. All right, so we can have hard discussion. I don't mind the hard discussion, but as long as we can be fair and respectful, I think that's the spirit that we want. Actually, I try, if I do this kind of intellectual discussion, I want all the stakeholders to be around, to be represented. But apparently, I didn't manage to get somebody from the government. But I've already extend my invitation to them. But if they come, they come. If they don't, they said they will promise to listen. The spirit from the MOF. Right, that is basically a long introductions of everything. So I think I just go to the this. Probably Tab, you want to open this session. This is basically the idea of this thing is basically mooted by President Tab, that we have something to this effect. Yeah, President Tab, we can open the discussion.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everybody. I think it's interesting that we bring all of you, especially industry practitioners, into this conversation. I think we have a very good array of people here today representing all walks in that sense. I wouldn't call Raja Iskandar somebody who's from the opposition. I think that he's been vocal in terms of what's best for the country generally. I think that's what we all want to do. We want what's best. Kita berak collect kan. Kita berak collect ni, it doesn't matter on which side we are. We definitely, the 9Y2 kita ada tu sama. We want it for a better place, for a better nation, especially for our race, for our religion and stuff like that. We take care of it. I tend to think Boon today probably is the most difficult day for any person from government to come on to talk with you lah. They're worried about their own future, let alone the future of Malaysia. So they probably wouldn't be able to concentrate on what. So it's so fluid out there. But nevertheless, I tend to think, we've got somebody from the pharmaceutical here, and that's very interesting in terms of what we had a pre-discussion just now. Whether is the vaccine enough, or we need medicine to get us into a better situation moving forward. Raja Iskandar will probably tell you about a whole lot of the closure and how that all has in the industry that is affected. By the way, since I know him, he also used to run a coffee shop, so he knows exactly what it is to run a coffee shop, and he used to run it in one of our outlets as well. And again, Boon, I'm not only representing Makoba, obviously, or ex-Makfa hotel industry, the theme park industry, but I'm also a banker at the moment, so I can see the kind of what kind of problems that are coming to the bank as well in terms of people asking for moratorium and stuff like that, So those are issues that we have. And again, we had this conversation even last week about Islamic banking and non-Islamic banking. So you can put that in if you want to as well. And again, from a lawyer portion, be very interesting to see, because a lot of things have been happening or not happening. In fact, a lot of my lawyer friends are saying nothing's happening because then, so they don't get businesses coming in, but then at the same time, banks are not actually foreclosing at the moment because of moratorium and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of issues, new businesses are not opening up, but also all businesses are having failures and stuff like that. Yeah, so again, it'll be a good conversation that we can have today, Boon. I'm open to any kind of format you want. Thank you everybody for joining in. I'm sure we're going to have a great conversation today.
Thank you, President Tab. Yeah, that's basically our president, and also they're representing the Matfa. At least he got some friends in the industry. They also want to know how they are doing right now. I know for a fact that my own neighbor from travel agent now is basically doing catering. They basically changed business. Even Hakim, basically the bus basically stopped. They have to sell their bus to have a can take. Okay, that is that. Okay, we straight to the business. I want to ask probably Saudara Zulkifli kita. So how's that statement by Datuk Michael Kang is true? How far is true? That, are you part of the 40% statistic? I think you're still running. So what's your status, your battery life now?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Saudara Boon atas jemputan untuk saya bersama-sama dengan para panelis yang lain untuk bersama-sama berkongsi idea, berkongsi rasa atas apa yang berlaku di dalam negara kita hari ini I thought that it's supposed to be a panel 1 to start with.
I see. Okay, it can be if you Iskandar or anyone want to. Just talk your state of business right now. I just want to know from that statement.
Dia begini, of course kita kena akui apa yang berlaku hari ini memang memberi kesan kepada industri, memberi kesan kepada especially macam kami dalam retail business apabila bisnes tak dapat dibuka, ada kekangan dari segi masa buka dan masa tutup, and then kemudian tidak boleh tidak dibenarkan dine in dan sebagainya. Perkara ini definitely mengganggu dan seterusnya memberi kesan yang sangat ini kepada perniagaan kita. Jadi apa yang disebut oleh presiden
SME Association, Presiden PKL.
Jadi Presiden SME Association itu pada pandangan saya benar. Kalau sekiranya tidak dibuat sesuatu dalam 2-3 bulan akan datang, saya jangkakan keadaan akan menjadi lebih serius lah. Dalam industri saya sendiri, dalam perniagaan saya sendiri, saya buat masa sekarang kami ada lebih kurang 11 outlet EHG Coffee di kebanyakannya di IPTA. 2 daripada outlet di IPTA itu telah kita terpaksa gantung operasi disebabkan oleh arahan daripada pihak universiti, dan kami selebihnya kami beroperasi dalam pada kadar yang sangat minimal, pada sangat minimal. Jadi saya rasa sekiranya keadaan ini terus berterusan tanpa kita berbuat sesuatu, maka ia akan memberi kesan buruklah kepada ekonomi secara keseluruhan.
Okay, baik, terima kasih. We'll go back to you. If you want to add anything, just let us know. Just raise your hand. Okay, so macam mana lah industri farmasi, Farid? So apa beza PKP 1.0 dengan PKP 3.0? Mungkin dari segi bantuan dan package, does it help your business? Farid?
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay, talking from the pharmacy punya industry, kalau daripada PKP 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 kan, makin lama makin teruk lah, bukannya makin lama makin okey. So things needs to change lah. Okay, so banyak benda yang memang if you I think last month kot MPS punya presiden, Malaysian Pharmacy Society punya presiden bagi tahu dah dekat 200 outlet farmasi gulung tikar, okay, in the whole Malaysia lah. Okay, this was reported, tak ingat lah sama ada dalam Star ataupun dalam Sina lah. Okay. So and finding ways to survive lah. To survive. Banyaklah benda nak kena buat kan. Part-timer staff tak ambil, downsizing, okay. And then bos sendiri kena kerja, public holiday anak sendiri kena kerja. So all that have to come into play lah. Macam mana kalau tidak, lah kita tutup lah. Tutup kena carilah benda lain nak buat kan. Tapi masa dulu awal-awal adalah bantuan sikit kan. Adalah subsidi RM600 lah, RM1,200 lah kan. Tapi tu sekejap je lah. 3 bulan lepas tu habis. Out. Kan. Then sekarang dengan bila staff kena COVID, staff kena COVID, kena bagi cuti free. Betul. Then siapa nak cover? And then testing mana ada apa-apa. Sendiri kita keluar poket. Kan RTK ke apa ke, and then the prices of the testing tinggi kan, tinggi. Kalau ini nak cerita tak apalah, dengarlah kan. Amongst versus other countries, tengok dia punya pricing RTK antigen berapa ringgit je kan. Kalau dekat Germany tu less than $5. Okay, so those are the things that have to really kena tengok lah benda-benda macam tu. Okay, and then in terms of to maintain lah. Actually to maintain and then survival, bukan nak untung pun. Tak ada untung lah. So sekarang is just to scrape through. Okay. Mainly as bosses kan, as bosses ataupun business owners, we actually look at the staff, okay? The staff punya kebajikan lah, okay? Kesian staff. Kita pun nak kena tengok juga in all those angles. And people come with families, okay? They have food to put on the table. So benda-benda tu kena ambil ni. So there's a lot of things, okay, needs to change. There also we hope there's a lot more support, okay. Bukan tu saja. So when you talk about we talk about supply chain, okay, we talk about supply chain. Factory sini sana semua tutup. So our availability to get stocks pun terganggu, okay. No doubt, okay, ada satu essential. Tapi, okay, coming from kilang kan. Kilang nak buat tablet kena ada aluminium foil kat belakang. Aluminium foil punya kilang tutup. Tak boleh buka. So, dekat situ supply chain block. Ada orang nak ubat tak boleh dapat. Kita kata kat supply, kita kata kat customer, oh, kilang tutup lah. Habis saya mau makan ubat macam mana? Kita juga kena marah. Okay, so these are a lot of other things, okay, and then not to mention other costs involved, okay, sebab all the SOP nak kena beli mask, nak kena ada hand sanitizer, kan, those are all cost incurred, okay, when you do business. Then with the other competitors as well, we compete with online. Kita ada kedai, kita ada physical kedai. Yang online punya kedai tak ada apa pun, tak ada SOP ke apa kan pun tak ada. Lepas tu dia are selling counterfeit punya barang pun belasah je. Tak ada ambil action, kita report pun dia kata okey, report sini, report sana, report sini, report sana, tak ada apa pun. Last itulah. Those are all the things. Banyak benda kalau nak cerita. Nanti Boon marah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's it.
Before I go, can I ask Saudara Farid, most people would think pharmacy ni macam essential, and in a pandemic, pharmacy should be the one yang making profit, right?
Yeah.
So what's the pain point? What are the pain points, and what affects your revenue during the MCO? And have you implemented any measures macam delivery or whatever yang to address this kind of challenges lah.
Yes, definitely. Semua buat. Delivery, Lalamove, Shopee, semua buat. But then in terms of you can actually see customer flow, the purchasing price, people only buy essential, they no longer buying toiletry ke lain semua tak ada. They just buy what they need saja. Okay. Even ubat dulu beli satu kotak, sekarang beli satu keping. Siap suruh gunting lagi. Because the purchasing power has reduced. Okay. And then customer flow. Kedai kiri kanan semua tutup. Mana orang nak datang? Pukul 7 semua dah tutup keliling. There's no customer flow. Okay. Itu jangan cerita awal bulan, hujung bulan tu okey lagi lah. Tengah-tengah tu parking lot dekat depan tu boleh kira kosong aja. Alright. So banyak benda kalau nak cerita. Alright. And then in terms of I would say the stocks issue pun ada masalah juga. Okay. Then kita cakap pasal courier lah kan, courier ataupun logistik. Okay. Ada seorang kena COVID, kena tutup. The whole system akan tutup. So the logistic part akan terganggu. I bagi example senangnya, Zulik Pharma. Zulik Pharma is one of the biggest distributors, okay, supply chain. Kena COVID 75 orang. Jam, habis. Dekat 2 minggu stop semua. Vitamin tak datang, itu tak datang, susu semua tak datang. So these are all the disruption. Okay.
Okay, thanks Farid. Farid akan bagi second. Okay. Kita akan masuk balik. Okay, kita bagi first round tu. Of course, ini I think Raja Iskandar is taking note lah. Because dia akan buat dia punya ambil note. Ambil note, the strategy Muhibah dia, project Muhibah dia. He's trying to propose. I think I've given one to MOF and I think the other one to give to, I think Ismail Sabri if not mistaken. I saw that. Okay, right. Tuan lawyer, macam mana Tuan lawyer? Tuan lawyer pada kena juga ke? Kita tak payah.
Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum. Okey. Saya rasa overall legal firm ni, industri legal ni first affected lah. Kita affected, of course affected. Kita memang kita melalui PKP 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Saya rasa PKP 1.0 dengan 2.0 tu okey lagi. Masuk 3.0 ni kita tak tahan. Pasal of course macam kita servis industri, kita bergantung kepada agensi lah, contoh macam bank, bergantung kepada lembaga hasil, bergantung kepada pejabat tanah. Kalau pejabat tanah tu limit service, okey tak boleh apa. Bila kita boleh buat apa, kita nak advise the bank tak boleh, kita nak charge the client pun tak boleh. So bila kita boleh charge the client, maknanya kita income tu tak ada lah. Bila income tak ada, saya rasa kebanyakan legal firm sekarang banyak yang dah start potong gaji, start lay off lah. Tapi nak buat macam mana? Tapi yalah macam PKP 1.0 dulu kita okey pasal ada sikit bantuan daripada pihak kerajaan lah dengan membagi yang SOKSO punya bantuan. Something walaupun bukan sampai 6 bulan, mungkin rasa 3 bulan 4 bulan sajalah. Tapi untuk yang sekarang ni, walaupun ada government kata nak bagi yang SOKSO punya bantuan, sampai sekarang tak dapat lagi. Tapi saya rasa macam saya punya firm lah, saya bernasib baik, staff tak berkira. Kita dah explain pada staff bahawa kita tak boleh tahan lah. Maknanya kita terpaksa potong gaji jugalah. Starting from this month kita potong gaji. Tapi so far staff kisah pasal kita pun dah reduce kita punya kita buat giliran datang ke office, dia punya waktu bekerja pun kita dah kurangkan, jadi probably dia orang pun okey lah.
Okey, pemerkasa ke apa plan yang kerajaan bagi tak ada efek, boleh tolong sikit kan? Ada soften.
Saya tak rasa ada efek lah. Tak ada rasa. Untuk dari segi bantuan macam ni tak ada rasa. Tu satu hal lah. Tetapi dari segi macam kita dari segi kalau boleh government boleh bagi relax sikit on the yang pasal kita mencukai-cukai apa semua, hopefully government boleh consider lah. Pasal saya rasa tahun ni tak tahu macam mana kita nak bayar tax lah. Kita nak bayar gaji pun susah, nak bayar tax macam mana kan. Itulah, hopefully government boleh consider sikit lah.
So kalau dari segi macam Zul kata tadi 2-3 bulan dia punya battery life dia ada lagi kan. Macam tuan lawyer berapa lama bateri tu boleh tahan?
Saya rasa kalau rasa 4-5 bulan saya rasa kalau tak ni juga saya memang rasa pening sikit lah, terus sikit lah. Okay. Tapi yang government bagi moratorium tu sebenarnya bantulah. Pasal saya paksa saya ambil semua moratorium tu pasal supaya kita boleh potong gaji. Dan dia orang ambil lah kan.
Okay. Nanti tu Raja Iskandar tengah jot down semua masalah industri ni. Ni dah cuba rungkaikan dalam dia punya projek Muhibah 4.0 dia dari 3.0. Kita teruskan pada the first yang paling teruk sekali, industri yang paling teruk, basically team attraction, hotel and amusement. So whether you can share some info on your industry, or your ex-industry plus your current industry, your bank. You're mute. You're mute. Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm still also part of the hospitality under one of my companies that I'm a board member of, MEA. We also have hotels in our group. So memang betul teruk lah. The industry got hit right from MCO1, and the problem is a lot of the theme parks again, because of the fact that it's social. Mana nak buat social distancing kalau masuk theme park kan? That's the first thing. So that got hit immediately, and then as the lawyer kawan kita kata tadi, a lot of the cost in a theme park, apart from the capital cost that they've spent a lot on, is actually even hotels, is staff cost. So the amount of people that the industry takes in ramai, and that's the huge cost in the bill for these businesses are staff cost. So macam mana pun, how much time ni dah kat 2 tahun dah kan of closure, and then buka sekejap, tak buka sekejap, buka sekejap, lepas tu tak tengok SOP boleh ke tak boleh ke, what kind of SOP nak buka untuk water park, apa SOP nak buka for a dry park. So a lot of these things were ding-donging all along the way. The hotels managed to open just for a while, but then again it had to close again, because again travel was not restricted. So siapa yang nak travel, katalah orang pada Seremban nak pergi Port Dickson, that's as much as you can lah. Orang Langkawi nak pergi ke Langkawi hotel, takkan dia nak pergi kan. So those kind of issues that a lot of people had. Though there was some kind of life sekejap lah. I think during the end of year portion, where some of the hotels managed to open, some of the hotels managed to start again sekejap, but after that closure again. Some of the hotels were able to become COVID
quarantine
centers kan for a while. And I think some hotels even in my area now pun jadi temporary quarantine. But again, it's very little because a lot of hotels actually as F&B you make money on, as compared to just the hotel rooms and stuff that, then you still need to manage and maintain a lot of these things. But the industry itself has been really affected. You're right, and more so on the uncertainty. Boleh buka ke tak boleh buka ke? Sekejap boleh buka, sekejap tak boleh buka. How do you run something like that? And then now there was a announcement recently, maybe as an incentive, people who are double vaccinated can come. But again, a lot of people are still worried. When you talk about double vaccination, lepas 2 weeks ke, immediately ke, whatever. And theme parks per se, actually more for children kan, and children under 18 are not vaccinated, so doesn't make sense either. Kan parents yang nak datang, you know, that kind of thing. So kalau parents datang tak bawa anak, nyerit anak yang nak pergi kan, anak nak pergi sekolah pun tak boleh, let alone nak pergi ke vaccination center. And we talked about just now, nak pergi pharmacy nak beli ubat pun tak ada, nak pergi theme park nak bayar RM180 for one person. You know, that kind of thing. You don't even have money nak pergi theme park. So a lot of people kata, buka lah theme park so at least people yang stress out boleh pergi. I don't know. A lot of people are affected. Lawyers cannot pay their salaries. Who really has the money? You know, when we talk about the people that have money, I don't think they will be the one that we're going to theme parks in the first place. You know, so this kind of issues that we have. Does the vaccination by itself works, or as I mentioned just now, should we actually be looking at cures as we go along? There's a lot of cures out there in the world, but big pharma has been issued, big media has been against a lot of these things. Politics has been against a lot of these things as well. So interesting to see how Raja Iskandar replies to this, because a lot of these are vested interests to an extent. Why businesses has not been allowed to open and not been able to do this. Double standards have been out there as well. I think that uncertainty between industry. Sekejap kata PPVs boleh buka pasal ada 250 orang yang infected, tapi parlimen berapa orang pun dah kena tutup untuk 2 minggu kan. So these kind of things are going around every conversation that you open your WhatsApp, you see this conversation. So a lot of people are really unhappy. Let alone nak pergi theme park, duit tak ada, makan tak boleh. Kau nak pergi theme park pun nak makan, you nak ride, you nak nyerit, takkan nak pakai mask nyerit, you know, that kind of thing. Tak boleh bawa anak. And then like, for instance, Kidzania, for instance, a theme park actually relied a lot on school groups during the weekday. School tak buka, macam mana school groups nak pergi? You know, let alone. So these are the kind of issues you have right throughout, and there is no help that's forthcoming from macam we talk moratorium, we're talking about the loan portion of it, but no, there's no real help in terms of giving companies like this incentives to open or even pay their salaries. Hotels are really an issue. Kesian, if you look at hotels, I think even last year, the amount of closures of hotels is frightening. You know, the amount of people that have closed hotels right from the word go. Dah lah sebelum tu dah problem kan. Datang COVID lagi lah the issue. It's just compounded because in 2019 there were a lot of issues as well. You know, and we were having problems right from the time that the 2MH crashed. The industry was having problems of incoming tourism. Now tourism totally tutup. Macam mana? You know, so this kind of things. A lot of local tourism tak boleh, foreign tourism lagi has not happened. You know, so where is you were talking about just now, pharmacies tak ada orang jalan kat depan kan? Ni kita tak ada orang datang ke country pun. Airport kosong, the whole industry tak ada. When you talk about that plus all the F&Bs that all these places rely on, nothing. Yeah? Sorry, I'm painting
No, that's okay. That's basically what I don't know how what they are doing now, hibernating and waiting for things to before they really spring up to life, or
a lot of places are mothballing lah. If we talk about mothballing kan, you mothball, you keep it to a certain extent. Tapi how long can you mothball pun? Over time, even the Khazanah companies have started selling their assets. You know, like Kidzania was sold and
selling to who? I mean, macam I tanya Hakim, a bus company. No bus company is making money. So you sell your bus to siapa nak pakai bus tu? And sell your hotel to who?
Ada juga yang public listed companies that have the war chest kan, that they have. So they keep as an investment, and then after now, of course everybody was hoping that all this will end in 2 months' time. That was 8 months ago. That was 12 months ago. Yeah, it's not. It's when we were in this time last year, we were hoping that everything would be okay in September. It's September 1 year ago on, nothing has happened. In fact, we've gone worse. Pada dulu 2,000 orang infected. Now every day you talk about 18.
Okay, kita bagi pada kita punya new Prime Minister kita, insyaAllah akan dilantik bulan September nanti dengan dia punya strategi how to revive the nation, whether they can really help all these 4 industries and some more. This young chap, dipersilakan. You guys can tembak him now.
Okay, saya disclaimer, I didn't pay Boon to say that.
I instigated him to do that.
So I think the ultimate problem or issue that threads across all the conversation is the problems with our lockdown or sole lockdown strategy, waiting for vaccination or mass vaccination. So I think the existing strategy is basically to just have vaccination for the majority of the people, and then while waiting for that, we lock down the whole population. I think that was a go-to strategy from the very beginning. And why did they come up with this strategy or go with this strategy is because of the false belief that COVID will be temporary. I think that was the prevalent thinking, some sort of a denial, I think, that this COVID pandemic would be a long-term or a long-haul fight against the virus. So most people think that, okay, this will subside in 2-3 months and then we can go back to semi-normal and then get vaccine and then herd immunity will kick in and then everything will go back to the pre-pandemic era. But what we learned from UK, Australia, US, with the emergence of different variants, alpha, beta, now we have Delta and then Delta Plus, macam iPhone. And then we're gonna come again, another one approaching us is Lambda. All this, we don't know how dangerous it is and how threatening it is to our lives and also our loved ones. So that really caused concern to many people. And I think throughout this whole journey of fighting pandemic, the glaring I wouldn't say mistake, but fault lines is the strategy of clustering economic sectors via their types of essentiality. So this one group, so it's an arbitrary measure, I would say, because they haven't come clean on, okay, what is the definition of an essential sector? What is the definition of non-essential sector? You see 1 minute, this group of companies are not essential, and then after they did some pleading, the next day they become essential sector. So that gives out the signal that maybe that this classification wasn't done via based on science or data, but on political considerations. What I think and what most of my colleagues think would be a better gauge would be to allow business to operate based on their risk factor, their riskiness. What's the point of letting a factory open and operate if their risk factor is high? You see less transmission in F&B operations compared to factories, but F&B is restricted in its operating in its operation, while factory can open without any restriction. So this creates some sort of unfairness, and as most of you pointed out, when you close one sector, it doesn't mean that just one sector will suffer. Our economy is actually linked in the modern economy, the free market, where we use we are we are very reliant on supply chains, either domestic or global supply chains. One sector goes down and then the other will be impacted. Macam tadi one of the saudara yang operate pharmacy cakap, if you close down aluminium punya kilang, then some tablets cannot be produced kan. So then that impacts pharmacy. So this thinking needs to change. We need to start reopening sectors safely based on their risk factor. So how do you do that? You can do many ways. Some of the ways are using the carbon dioxide meter to check the ventilation quality of the premise. So we've seen that in many countries that they are moving towards actually many people, many experts have accepted that the main transmission, the main vehicle of transmitting COVID is airborne through air or ventilation. So if you address ventilation, you minimize the risk of ventilation, there are no excuse to lock people up anymore. So I think that should be a priority, and the experts and the effort that the government and private sector needs to invest in is to pandemic proof our workspaces and come up with pandemic proofing measures so that people like our friends, yourselves, can go back to work, make a living safely, so that we can safeguard our livelihood while also saving lives. Basically, all this while we've been living with a false dichotomy or false trade-off of it's either lives or livelihood. But as we begin to accept more and more that this virus is here to stay, we cannot eradicate COVID in just 1 year or 2 years. More variants will come up eventually, and other pandemic or other virus might come up in the future. New variant or even other COVID different versions of COVID in the future that can cause a pandemic. So this should be construed as an investment lah, instead of an expense. And I think government has a big role. We can discuss a lot more afterwards. Government has a big role.
Are you saying that the minister is sleeping on his job? No? They don't know about all these things.
I wouldn't go to the extent of sleeping on his job, but I think there are challenges in terms of turf war or territory, ministerial territory that needs to be overcome lah. Because I think it's inherent in our system that each ministry will jaga each their prerogative. So the health minister will jaga only the health part. The education minister will only jaga the education part. The finance minister will jaga the coffers. But there are no ministries that think about the bigger picture. So the lack of a bigger picture framing results in gaps in understanding, and some of the issues that you guys point out falls through the cracks because no one is looking at it. Macam like if everyone is in silo,
That's an interesting statement, because I think Rafida Haziz mentioned that in one of her interviews. He's saying that there's no coordination among all the stakeholders. That's one thing. But also what you said is that we don't even have to work in ourselves. We can look at what's happening outside in the rest of the world, how they've been able to manage. And we're not even emulating what they're doing, some of them. In fact, what you just mentioned in terms of that policy, Singapore has decided on doing that, living with the pandemic and knowing how to do that going forward as well, And we're not even looking at our nearest neighbor and how they're doing that. Okay, given like the one smaller, then they can do that. But I tend to think that there's a lot that we can figure out in what you just said. Trying to open the economy logically.
Yeah, and I think the necessary investment wasn't put in lah. Other countries, they have opened up, but this is predicated on a few things. One is strengthening the healthcare system, enhancing the healthcare infrastructure and manpower. So this includes addressing the plight of the contract doctors. Some of them have to work overtime, but they are given peanuts. How are they going to survive? We are talking about our frontliners, kan? We are combating the virus. We are in a war. We use the war metaphor every now and then, but but the soldiers at the front lines, we are not taking care of them. So that needs to be taken care of. Infrastructure, in many of our engagements, the doctors have said that it's not just about adding ventilation. Some of the hospitals, they are built-in oxygen distribution system. So this we can check with our batchmates lah, yang doctors kan. So this has a maximum capacity. Even if we add ventilators, but we don't revamp the infrastructure, we don't have a field hospital punya system or whatever, we don't incorporate private hospitals, then there's no point to add ventilators because the oxygen pressure will still be low, and that can't be happening lah. So there needs to be a larger thinking. That's why we need like cross-ministry punya interaction and engagement to solve these issues. So that forms the base or foundation before we can open up the economy. Alongside that, there's also need to be a strengthened on the health side. There needs to be a strengthening of systematic framework of identifying, isolating, mitigating of cases and positive transmission. What does this mean? It means that kalau lah one of your staff kena COVID, we need to know who he or she has been interacting with, and how to connect with them and isolate them while not jeopardizing your businesses. So that is key before we can open up the economy. This involves cheaper testing methods, subsidized testing, and a culture of testing and tracing.
Yalah, so, benda ni patut dah lama buat, bukan sekarang. Sekarang dah 20,000, dah going to be 20,000 baru nak cakap. Pun tak buat-buat juga. Buatlah daripada dulu.
We've been, I think everyone has been talking about this.
Sekarang self-test kit. You tengok self-test kit. Siap ada dalam My Sejahtera. Somebody is going to monopolize. Baru benda macam ni lah. Apa lah. Betul tak?
Ya.
Cuma profit punya cerita je. Lepas tu bila kita hantar surat baru, cancel. Tak boleh, mesti go through. Buat apa ada MDA, Medical Device Act, tapi semua boleh masuk. This is transparency lah. Buat dialog lah. Bagi both sides. Baru cerita. Ni dah marah dah ni. Cerita.
Ini ada komen daripada Fauzia Abdul Rahman. One thing that basically the government of the day should listen to the people. I think baru recently nampak macam MOF start listening even to the opposition party. They welcome all kind of inputs. I don't know whether they show off or not, but there is one talk that I listened to, the Datuk Maidin, WIRA Maidin. It's one thing, you should listen to more like industry players like all of them. Of course, orang macam ni, dia under whatever lah, Melayu punya runcit lah. WIRA Maidin, tapi dia kata macam, of course, they were invited to listen to them, but it was like 12 years, 12 months or 6 months back, But this kind of thing, because this thing is evolving, so it's, that they should have a constant open communication, that they keep on listening to these people on the ground, like Farid, like whoever. I think the one that they have is basically MITI. So whenever that they have problem, at least they can voice out that they know at least, this thing can be related to Ismail Sabri, into MKN, and something's been done. It should be open, because the virus is also evolving. We should be evolving faster than the virus. Only then it can win the battle, and that's how I see it. Yeah, sorry for interrupting. I just comment to that.
Okay,
saya fikir begini, bila kita kata kita berada dalam peperangan, dan kita sebenarnya memang berada dalam peperangan, tapi masalahnya general kita yang berperang ni sebenarnya berperang sesama sendiri. And politically. Jadi,
talking about political.
I mean, saya nak sentuh sikit lah. Jadi di sini yang menyebabkan saya nampak agak goyah lah apabila orang-orang macam kita, macam pemain-pemain industri dalam pada kita untuk menyuarakan rasa tidak puas hati dan sebagainya, benda ni tidak sampai sebab ahli-ahli politik ataupun pihak kerajaan sebenarnya mungkin busy berperang sesama sendiri. Jadi ni yang menyebabkan saya rasa lah, saya nampak ada kepincangan lah di situ yang menyebabkan apa jua rasa di bawah ini tidak sampai ke telinga kerajaan lah.
Okay, itu dah macam tuduhan politik tu. Daripada opposition ni Iskandar masih suka. No, the thing is, of course orang kerajaan cakap, kita tak nak berperang tapi orang luar attack kita terpaksa. Political war. I mean, any comments to that? One thing that I think on my own personally, Zul, and no doubt we are in a state of war dengan the unseen virus. But to me, sorry to say lah, I mean, the number one supposed to, lead the pack, Dia tak boleh menyeruk dekat belakang all the generals and people to say this. And there must be one uniting factor that because everything falls on that number one. No, nothing personal, nothing what. Tapi I think it's in a state of war. People are looking at number one. That you should step up, in front and whether you like it or not, they have to give that the final word. Of course, there is always two choice of anything. But he must be able to take all the comments, criticism, or not. That's what my take. Faris or anyone want to add? Nak tembak Faris lagi dia boleh? Iskandar. So he's there waiting for you guys.
Just adding on to that, since this talk show is about the many people kan, I mean politicians will fight, but for the people, political crisis is actually also political opportunity lah, because the government is in need of ideas. There are ada ruang lah untuk industry people to get together and propose things that could be beneficial to the industry and the people. So I ambil contoh the fitness industry. The gyms has been closed for a while. I think for months have been closed, but recently because of the constant engagement that they've had with the KBS minister Rizal kan. So because of that, eventually they managed to open up gyms in a new normal. So with SOPs, vaccination checks and all. So there are rooms for pressure because ironically a weak government somehow is very open to ideas. So there are room or opportunity for industry players to band together with, before this could be rivals, now could be comrade in arms to reopen the sector. But I think it needs to be a cross segment coalition lah. So when we talk about coalition, it doesn't just apply to politics. Now it applies to industry and businesses as well, because the businesses need to seek out health experts, ventilation experts, OSHA punya experts, this health and safety at the workplace, to see how you guys can operate in this pandemic situation. Kalau we wait for the government to come up with ideas, then we'll have to wait until, I don't know, God knows when. Maybe until vaccination reaches 80%.
Okay. I nak stop guys tu kejap boleh? Okay, I just nak coming to that lah. Okay. I nak comment about the hot topic sekarang lah. Hot topic kan, ivermectin.
Hot topic
ivermectin. Okay. Alright. So kenapa lah I nak pastikan kenapa other countries are already using. Philippines dah pakai, Indonesia dah pakai, US dah pakai, a lot of other countries. Okay. Tapi Malaysia still tak nak. Tu tak nak satu hal lah. Okay. Why don't, because ada study, clinical study, everything ada. Why don't you legalize it? Sebab and it is a control drug. It is a control drug. So control drug upon doctors punya prescription baru boleh bagi. So ada banyak. So kita ada dua-dua side. Ada doktor yang against. Oh cakap ubat parasite lah, ubat animal lah. Tapi ada satu yang memang yes. And they are professionals. They are professionals. They see the patients, bagi dia orang pakai. And it is saving lives. Bukan saja untuk vaksin saja. Vaksin. We have patients yang dah memang ada. Ada kawan kita pun ada. Dos dah 2 kali. Habis dos Mei. COVID positif. Positif juga. Ada yang pergi sampai stage 3 pun ada juga. Kena bagi ubat lain. Kena bagi vitamin, kena bagi suplemen, baru dia go back to normal. So these are the things. So then you can actually bring the numbers down. Ini kalau tidak, itu yang pelik tu. Whether it's because it's dirt cheap, then lepas tu ini boleh pula approve satu ubat lain yang mahal nak mampus.
Ini dah politik ni.
Eli Lilly, Big Pharma punya ni. Itu clinical trial baru ada 21.
Minister of Health ada kosong lah. Bulan 9.
Itu
yang because people are looking.
Boon, I don't think it's political, it's logical, from a businessman, from a just logical. If there is a medicine out there that can be used and it's safe, but a lot of people are saying it's not, but it's been proven that it's safe by many also. And there's a lot of Malaysians that are taking it. In fact, the proponent of it is one of our budak college juga yang couple of years my senior, 7 years my senior. He's the one, Dr. Amir, that's come out very vocal about this.
Yeah.
And then because the medicine is available out there, even for worms kan, so it's been safe out there for a long time. Bukan. So and I know a lot of people have been taking it, and they solve their problem within 3-4 days. Dah bagus lah. Especially stage 1 lah, or stage 2 tu. I'm not talking about the ones that have gone to the stage, but there are also people who are taking it as a deterrent. Even after the vaccine, they're taking it once a week kind of thing, And so with that, let's go back to my industry lah, the theme park kan. So with that, if people are taking that, so dah dapat two vaccination pun, and then you take one tablet ke apa, and then so you keluar kata kalau demam biasa lah, like say you take Panadol kan, so you know kalau demam you boleh tengok Panadol. Ni you tahu kalau you demam you boleh ambil this medicine and you be okay. Then you start being able to go out to makan ke, you be able to go out to the pharmacy ke, you be able to go out to the whatever the whole economy can start moving again. So this is why when I started just now, I said it's not just about the vaccine, it's also about the medication. People need to be comfortable to be able to go out. Sekarang ni I'm not going out for what? Kat 2 bulan I tak keluar dah. I just went out to get my vaccine and came back. I have not gone out.
Yeah, I think I would differ on that point.
What?
On the
ivermectin.
yes, on the ivermectin. I mean the trial is ongoing for Malaysia. Let's see what the result is. For now, it's been
trial
for
trial. Kenapa nak guna trial kat Malaysia? Kenapa guna trial kat Malaysia? Tapi vaksin punya trial kat Malaysia tak pakai. Ada tak? Pfizer tak ada kan?
Well, India has pulled out of ivermectin, and a few other research yang proposed ivermectin has been discredited. So if we want to use it, let's have KKM research about it lah. My point is, vaccine should be the ultimate end goal, but in between vaccine, we need to introduce control so that businesses can operate at the same time. So that's my point. Having suffered COVID before, I've read up on the symptoms. I've been to Sungai Buloh. I've interacted with the nurses.
Have you been to
COVID-
other
COVID-
centers that? Have you been to other centers that is using ivermectin?
I wouldn't say I have, but that's my opinion lah. So here we can
Yalah, that's why lah.
agree to
You can
disagree.
differ to agree to disagree.
Yeah. So
Correct,
that's my
yes.
point. I just wanted to make it public in this public forum lah.
But I thought YB Zul from opposition also, the ex-Minister of Health also they disagree on that matter.
Yeah, so Dr. Zul pun
so-
disagree, and he deferred to the research, and somehow we are more aligned to the government on this. But yeah, in terms of this, I think vaccine is the best solution, but it's not a silver bullet. You can still get infected, but to a lesser degree, maybe category 1 or 2, so that it reduces the severity of the infection.
But just to clarify my position, I'm not saying I'm against anti-vax or people who take ivermectin, but you should not go for vaccination. You still should go for vaccination. I think everybody should still go for vaccination anyway, you know. And this is macam flu lah kan. The normal flu, you still take a vaccine once a year or twice a year, but you still got medicine anyway. If you get still, but so at least you're not so afraid of getting the flu or getting whatever, you know. So that I'm not saying ivermectin is the only medicine. Also, there are hopefully somebody else will be able to find a medicine for this. But the answer to why there's no research done on ivermectin is because nobody is going to sponsor that to a certain extent, because it's already a cheap medicine. It's only new medicine that's come in that has a lot of people funding it to make sure that it goes on board. I'm sure you read all this. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are other research also. Yeah, I just want to make it known that there are other research also that says it's not effective. So we need to balance it out lah, the conversation.
Yeah, sure. It's
Okay,
not either lah.
Okay. Probably we can summarize.
Accountant.
Sorry. That's okay. Okay, probably Iskandar boleh summarisekan the whole, probably your project Muhibah strategy 1 until 3. So how we can go out or can win the war, and or probably how we can live, having the life and livelihood together. I mean, yeah, basically, and probably some of them will ask you what more that you never know. Come September, which government will run this country? Probably on your side, probably they can take some of the input from this discussion, and you can probably bring it on board.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So to summarize just a bit, I think three main points I've indicated earlier. Tapi just to recap, the first one is to have a strong healthcare base, enhance the quality of our healthcare infrastructure, dan to beef up the manpower. So this includes hiring, absorbing the medical students to be part of the front line, giving the necessary address the plight of contract doctors, so that you give the gaji semua berpatutan dan all the benefits that they deserve. For the hospitals, to address the strain of the public hospitals, designate certain hospitals as COVID hospitals, and then designate certain private hospitals as non-COVID hospitals. So you transfer all your non-COVID cases to these private hospitals, while the public hospitals has capacity to get or receive more COVID patients lah. Number 2 is the strengthening the framework of identifying, isolating and mitigating cases. So we need a unified database. We have that MySejahtera and all. It needs to be linked to a centralized database, so that you know where you have been, and then when you are doing contact tracing, you then need to go check your diary and then to see where you have been. At least you can cross-check who you've been in contact with. Kalau one of you is positive, then you can track back, okay, I've met this person and this person. So the trail of contact, you can then test them with this easy method of self-testing or the cheaper methods lah. Outsourcing the function of testing and tracing. So it doesn't need to be MOH doing it. You can actually outsource it to other companies, because contact tracing is just what you call people and then you trace back kan. So any expert in contact center yang buat operator tu can actually establish this kind of operation. So you actually relieve the burden from the MOH staff. Because last time when I kena COVID, yang call me was the nurse or doctors. So why are these doctors manning the phone when they need to be either resting or when at work treating patients? So you relieve them from that menial work, then you pass it to a specialist lah. And isolation doesn't need to be at hospitals. Category 1 and 2 can be at homes, or those yang cannot do at home because of constraint in spaces macam rumah kecil atau duduk kat kondo dengan other family, they can do, the government can subsidize stays at hotels. So like Tab cakap, certain hotels can be converted into quarantine centers, not just for those yang baru balik daripada overseas, but people yang tak boleh quarantine at home. And in regards to reopening the economy, we need to think about pandemic proofing measures and practices. So we need to move away from this notion of essential and non-essential, focus on riskiness. The operating hours restriction, I think is silly. COVID doesn't take a break at 8 p.m. and then they run away. It's based on your traffic at the workplace or at the business operations. So
what's the rationale between the time working hours?
I suspect the initial thinking is that you limit exposure because of this 8 to 8 p.m. kan, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But it's counterintuitive, counterproductive, because what happens now is everyone is rushing within that short time period. Now you have more crowds at areas. And when we look at previous emergencies, when we talk about emergencies, have always been about communist terrorism. So curfew mentality is there, and people think that it's last time, like the 7 months before was emergency kan. So people think that 8 p.m. onwards we cannot go, it's a curfew. So that kind of thinking needs to change. Why? Because when you expand the operating hours, let's say from 7 a.m. to maybe 11 p.m. or 12 midnight, you allow businesses to implement shifts. So this might not be cut across the board, but certain businesses maybe can do shifts. You buka pagi, close kejap, and then buka petang, just so that you can operate longer hours, but in a safety manner. Again, it doesn't apply to all businesses, but some businesses might benefit from this. The other one, the most central part, is ventilation and subsidized testing. The government needs to, in any ways, acquire an array of test kits, subsidize them, and then make sure it's available to businesses. Only with periodic testing, I think businesses can operate semi-normally. In fact, I've also purchased kits for my own use, because I sometimes go out just to protect my family. I just test periodically lah, so that wherever I go out, I wouldn't catch it and then bring it home to family. So that's the gist of it. I mean, we can discuss lah on the points.
Okay, basically all this thing has been, I think, presented to, I think, Smith Sabri by Lim Guan Eng. I saw them giving something.
For REFSA, we do consultation with parties, including DAP. Sometimes we engage with Muda, Mana. So in that engagement, we have shared our insights, and they have took it to the minister lah.
I mean, there are certain things like time. If there is no really a good, counter argument of it, so why not just open and extend until 12, 11, like you said, no? Dulu macam 8 to 8, it's very restrictive. Kalau nak berniaga pun macam susah. I mean, there is no I not really see lah, unless they said they borrow from the communist time, that you can really go out during daylight, so the communists cannot really, minta beras ke apa. I'm not too sure lah.
Yeah, and
okay.
like the brother yang lawyer tadi kan cakap they have problem with LHDN and everything like that. So the government needs to think about how to digitize them lah, like how to make sure that they can still operate to service other businesses yang dah operate. So it doesn't make sense to close them so that other people cannot work.
Ya, tuan lawyer sama government.
Tapi problem dengan especially government lah, I bukan nak kutuk lah, tapi kita memang kalau kita kalau nak contact dia orang by email, dia orang tak jawab pun, tu yang masalah pada kita orang. So barat kita memang prefer pergi physical punya ni lah, pasal kita kalau email macam insolvency ke apa semua, dia orang tak reply. Itu problem pada kita. So bila tak reply, kita tak boleh nak continue dengan kerja kita. Sama juga pejabat tanah. So kalau memang susah lah, I tak nak cakap pun susah lah. Pasal limited service memang akan effect kita punya industri.
Ya.
Pasal legal ni lebih kepada memang you kena memang kena kerja-kerja counter, you kena jumpa pegawai. Kadang-kadang bila guna sistem ni dia susah. Dia main ikut sedap dia je guna sistem. Kita nak explain tak boleh. Ikut suka dia. Kalau teks tu dia main ikut sistem lah. Itu yang masalah pada kita. That's why kata kalau untuk kita lah yang tengok apa ni, untuk orang ni, kalau untuk yang untuk yang kerja-kerja yang kena berdepan, memang kena berdepan lah. Kalau tak boleh pakai sistem, tak boleh pakai online semua tak boleh, tak sesuai.
Ya.
So, Tuan Lawyer, tapi bukan kalau kita pakai email, dia dari email trail, login trail. At least kalau kita dah bagi UCC to certain people, if we don't reply or don't really answer you tak dapat tu, you boleh forward to. So is there anyone that you can mengadu?
Saya macam contoh macam insolvency 5-6 kali kita email, dia baru reply sekali. Lepas tu dah reply tak betul. Lepas tu kita hantar lagi email, pun senyap lagi. Kita pening lah, macam kita nak tolong klien, macam contoh yang dah bankrupt, kita nak tolong untuk supaya dia tak untuk keluar dari bankruptcy tu pun tak boleh. Terpaksa dengan macam ni lah, pasal dia orang tak pergi office, dia work from home, tapi dia orang tak betul-betul assist lah.
Kerja, okay. So kalau masalah macam ni, dekat siapa nak complain? Is there any place that kau boleh complain and people can tengok ni? Mungkin dia sibuk masak ke kan, dia tak jaga anak ke, anak PDR.
Tu yang susah. Bila dia orang limitkan kerja kita pun kita akan sangkut lah. Drop.
Sorry? There must be an avenue where you can channel you punya frustration, your complaint, and there's somebody should be listening to him lah. Kalau macam ni, the fact is livelihood, man. Dia punya staff pun semua, he cannot claim things cannot complete. Duit tak masuk lah. I mean, if there is anything that yang tak payah keluarkan duit that you can do, I mean, you should be doing it. I mean, that is to me like macam time, everything, Because kalau macam pasal duit, of course, it need to be discussed lah. Because I don't know how much money that we have.
Macam
Tuan Lawyer.
Macam legal mungkin Bakar Council boleh tolong push government lah. So far Bakar Council ada lah push. Contoh macam kita nak dapatkan ni untuk dapatkan buka balik the business ni kan. Memang Bakar Council dia push. Dia jumpa yang Taqiyuddin Taqiyuddin lah. So adalah dia yang buat lah kan. Tapi kalau berkenaan dengan macam mana kita nak komplain pasal government punya, agak payah sikit bang. Agak payah sikit kalau kita komplain lebih kan, nanti kita kena blacklist.
Dia tak ada ombudsman.
I think the fact that like what mentioned just now, everybody expect this COVID to have just been a temporary thing. Dan kita tunggulah sekejap. When things get back to normal, we'll manage it, Dulu pun tak efficient. Sebelum when things were normal pun tak efficient. You can imagine bila sekarang ni, the working from home has been a lot of excuses. People are actually not working from home. They're just at home. You know? Betul. And then they macam tadi lah, if problem broadband tak cukup, whatever, you know, komputer kat rumah tak ada access to all this information, all the stuff. So it becomes a lot of issues. A lot of people have been complaining about this. A lot of counters have closed. For instance, you know, don't talk about land office and all stuff, but DPKL have closed. A lot of counters have closed. JPJ has closed. You know, so so you're talking about all this supplementary work that goes on in the chain of has not been able to happen either. You know, in the theme park industry, a whole lot of people, the food industry have not been able to, the supply chain have not been able to, all the barang-barang merchandising have not been able to be sold. Hotels double same sort of things as well. How much are people actually buying online, buying food nak bawa balik rumah? They're not going to buy gourmet food.
Yeah.
5-star.
Okay, we go one by one. Is there from your side, from I don't know, entertainment, hotel, whatnot? Is there anything that the government can do, you know, to basically to ease this pain? I know the handouts not so much.
I think what Iskandar also mentioned just now is that looking at it in totality, you know, and also getting the SOPs done correctly and stuff, that one time getting it done, but also being very open and transparent about how you do sort of things. Sekarang ni, while definitely the holiday and theme parks are not essential, are they essential? You know, susah nak kata they're not essential. You know, are they essential? Essential in keeping people livelihood. It's essential.
Yeah. Essential.
It is essential. So that portion of it, if managed properly, all industries can be open. Especially even if the theme parks cannot operate to some parts. Some parts of it can definitely operate because it's in the open. It's not in the. It's not aircon. It's also some of the food portion can. But most of it can still function. It might not be 100%. But still be able to do that. Hotels, again, why can hotels yang do not have a massive number of people in one place, katalah chalets and stuff, why can't they open? You know, then they're not going to be meeting people anyway to a certain extent. You know, this kind of things. So a lot of things are, I think what Kanda said just now, taking everything is good. Tapi nobody actually looks at it in
detail. Okay, true.
You know?
True. I see your point. Okay, ada satu statement made from my friend. This is very true. Sometimes orang kata macam, you know, biar mati kena COVID, jangan mati tak boleh kerja, you cannot food on the table. Something I mean, that's very drastic. You know, you basically you're forbidden from working. But unless kalau you forbid from working, the government should really bagi you makan. I mean, that's one, I think, probably in the conclusion, that there must be a national concerted effort that makes sure that everyone must have food to eat. I know there are plenty of food bank here, this and that, tapi macam doesn't matter who they are, refugees ke, homeless ke, as long as they are human being, they must be able to get food somewhere. And government should you know, that's to me the baseline. Okay. Before that, probably just go through one, and last basically kita bagi our future finance minister untuk fikirkan the goodies, whether whatever that they're asking is really, you know, is really reasonable or not. So Zul, what do you want to survive, you know, for the next, you know, your he and she to be?
Pada pendapat saya, kita pun tak tahu sejauh mana atau selama mana keadaan ini akan berterusan. Okay. Tapi ada 2-3 perkara yang mungkin saya boleh highlight terutama kepada pihak kerajaan Bila kerajaan mengumumkan contohnya skim ke ataupun bantuan atau sebagainya, apa yang kita nampak kadang-kadang for example dia bagi dipanggil pengecualian sewa untuk setengah agensi kerajaan ataupun bangunan kerajaan. Tapi apa yang berlaku sebenarnya bila pengecualian sewa ataupun diskaun sewa itu diumumkan, ada clause dalam data itu mengatakan bahawa ianya bergantung pula kepada kepada agensi ataupun badan-badan kerajaan yang terbabit untuk menentukan sama ada boleh atau tidak. Jadi kita nampak dia balik pada back to square one lah. Kerajaan kata bagi bantuan, contohnya kan sewa dikecualikan ataupun penundaan barang sewa dan sebagainya. Tapi apabila peringkat pelaksanaan, perkara itu tak pun berlaku seperti mana yang kita difahamkan, ya. Jadi kami mengharapkan macam kami industri, saya sendirilah mengharapkan kalau boleh pihak kerajaan betul-betul melihat dan ikhlas, ya, dalam nak bantu industri seperti kita, seperti kami, dan juga saya juga nak highlight juga untuk industri F&B ni berkenaan dengan digitalization, berkenaan dengan penggunaan pendekatan online. Macam our president mention tadi, sebutannya ataupun online tu nampak cantik, nampak mudah, tapi sebenarnya pada hakikatnya dia indah kabar dari rupa sebenarnya pada saya lah, pada pandangan kami lah. Sebab tak dalam kita bagi contoh, dalam 10 orang yang nak cerita tentang online delivery ni, mungkin ada seorang atau dua orang je yang sebenarnya yang betul-betul ambil online punya ataupun pendekatan delivery ni. Sebab delivery ni dia memberi kesan kepada harga, sebab online ni menyebabkan harga barang-barang yang kami jual jadi mahal. Contohnya third party delivery, saya tak payah sebut company lah. Dia mengenakan charge, additional charge of about 30% daripada harga yang kami jual, dan kemudian dia mengenakan certain charges, yang hidden charges lah, yang akhirnya kerugian itu ditanggung oleh kita dan juga peningkatan kos kepada pembeli, dan ini tidak membantu dari segi bisnes itu sendiri. Jadi saya tak nampak benda ni. Jadi saya, kalau boleh kita nak minta pihak kerajaan melihat macam mana kerajaan boleh orang kata masuk campur lah dalam hal yang macam ini. Okay, Boon?
Okay, thanks. Okay, Hianchi Coffee, ya. Basically online sewa tu betul-betul ikhlas. I mean that's kalau under bawah government, tapi private something else lah, whether they can really bagi lah. Tapi kalau government pun tak boleh bagi, jangan cakap private lah. Agensi pun ni tak ada, bawah you tak boleh bagi, that is really something. Okay, I tahu Tuan Farid dia banyak dia punya bullet nak bagi, kita bagi Tuan Lawyer tu. Tuan Lawyer, apa boleh ditolong Tuan Lawyer untuk kita, Rafida, Inco boleh terus bergerak maju. Come next year.
Dia macam kita ni servis industri. Servis industri ni dia bergantung kepada agensi lain lah, pihak lain. Jadi selagi semua semua sektor lah, ekonomi, sektor agensi kerajaan ke swasta ke, kalau tak buka memang kita tak boleh continue dengan bisnes lah. Sebab kalau boleh lah, especially yang government agency tu, kita government tu kalau boleh buka lah. Okay. Probably yang kerja-kerja backroom tu datanglah office kan, yang counter tu probably boleh they can limit. Lepas tu probably kita boleh buat tepuk janji apa semua. Cuma itulah, kalau memang kita bergantung betul kepada pihak lain untuk kita menjalankan kita punya bisnes lah.
Okay. Itu je Tuan Lawyer. Ada lagi?
Itu je.
Moratorium tu kita okey tadi. Tuan Lawyer kita dapat. Okay. Kami fokus. Okay, satu is basically kita kena buka ekonomi as soon as possible. I think that will affect everyone. I mean all industry, even macam tourism and whatnot. That's how kita tengok mungkin macam tadi Raja Iskandar pun ada cakap, mention we need to really tadi essential ke non-essential, there's no dichotomy. Kita nak tengok on the risk factor, mungkin we can think of, macam tadi apart from as a lawyer, you kena tengok government agencies kena buka, buka, I mean mana yang you boleh datang office, they kena datang office to service you. And paling bodoh, at least if they don't do their job up to your expectation, there must be a channel where you can channel your complaint and somebody take. Dia tak boleh, kalau you biarkan, there is nobody supervising, looking after that, memang dia akan jadi juga. So there must be a higher authority, higher body whatever lah yang boleh tengok all these government agencies. I think so. I mean, the economy wise, I think we all agree with that. We have to really look into the details, how best that we can selain daripada all the 4 phases NRP yang kita akan tengok. Okay, terima kasih Tuan Lawyer for your input. Kita bagi pada Tuan ini saya punya Tuan Farid. Dipersilakan. So what do we need to basically we don't want you to be the 201 pharmacies yang closed down. We want you to be the one that leading the example, you know, to nah, please.
We are surviving. So surviving with what means that we can change lah. So changing macam dulu pakai aircon, sekarang pakai kipas. So because tenaga nasional pun tak ada bagi apa, sama aja. Dulu sampai sekarang sama aja. Untung bilion-bilion kan. Tapi bagilah, at least bagilah diskaun sikit. So kita boleh tahan sikit kan. So
TMB dengar TMB.
So macam tu lah, broadband semua bagilah, adalah. So bolehlah menapas sikit. So whatever that is safe can actually be translated to part-time staff, extra. So other people can enjoy lah. Itu yang nampak. The other one is actually because macam Zul bagi tahu tadi, Zul duduk dalam
Universiti PTA.
Okey lah, rental baik kita shop lot turun ke naik ke, tenancy agreement lagi teruk macam ni, naik lagi dia lah. So so itu bagilah ada macam reduction, dia orang boleh potong tax ke apa ke, at least boleh lah kan, 10% pun jadilah. So those are the things that will actually really help kita independent kecilnya business, tak adalah besar ada venture capitalist kat belakang ke kan, kita tak ada. So these are the sikit-sikit yang we actually boleh extend bateri itulah as Boon cakap tadi kan. Itu yang we hope to see lah. Lain daripada tu, I think I already cerita panjang tadi lah. Okay, alright. So thank you.
So I think you mention macam SOXO tu dalam Pemerkasa Plus tak ada that one macam we have one masa during the first one. We have now untuk staff.
Sekarang tak ada. Sekarang tak ada. Yang satu round tu je.
Sebulan.
Sebulan.
Sekarang kita ada subsidi upah.
Sebulan.
Subsidi upah kita masih
Sebulan.
lagi on
Subsidi upah macam mana?
Kami dapat subsidi upah.
Dia subsidi upah tu
subsidi upah yang terbaru di bawah SOXO kita dapat sambungan lagi bulan 8, 9, 10 tak silap saya, 3 bulan lagi.
Itu tak tahu tu.
Dapat 600 je. Dulu 1,200.
Bila tu?
Yang ni di bawah Pemerkasa.
Pemerkasa?
Ya.
Apply tang mana weh?
Kami baru dapat approval 2 hari lepas untuk gaji bulan inilah.
That means true Perkeso ke?
True Perkeso.
Awak dia tak hantar
sebelum
email
ni,
ke notification ke?
The first 3 month untuk PKP 1.0 kita dapat RM1,200.
Yes, I got that.
Okay, that one only for 3 months. Then later dia sambung for another 3 months but they cut it to half.
Betul. Yes, RM600.
Then they stop. Dan dia stop. Dan yang terbaru ni dia announce kita dapat lagi for tak silap additional 3 bulan lagi.
Tu tengok ada orang komen kat situ, subsidi upah tu tersasar. Tak semua industri dapat. Komen dekat tepi tu. Bagus.
Okey.
Mungkinlah.
Bulan je. Tu Syarul lah.
Syarul. Syarul.
Apa namanya? Boon Syarul.
Bukan industri semua dapat.
Boon berkenaan dengan sewa kan. Berkenaan dengan sewa saya rasa Boon dia sekarang ni kalau untuk kita untuk landlord nak bagi discretion landlord untuk bagi sewa kurangan sewa, saya rasa agak payah sikit lah. Kalau government boleh push landlord untuk kurangkan tu lagi bagus lah kan. Macam saya, kita memang dapat pengurangan sikit lah, tapi 15% saja, tapi which is boleh lah. Tapi kalau boleh government boleh push private untuk kurangkan lah. Selagi government tak push, dia tak.
Ini bukan negara komunis. Mana boleh push orang? Adakah jadi macam tu?
Betul. Tapi salah satu cara untuk membantu lah kan.
So macam mana dia put in a lah. Marah orang kata pasal ni kita dah discuss betul pasal vaksin.
Kalau itulah pasal.
Okay, I mean sewa of course, sewa, gaji pekerja, that is the two main big expenses for any company lah. That's the thing. The third one, kalau paling besar you buka the economy, at least not so bad kan. At least ada duit masuk kan. Macam Tuan Lawyer tu banyak dia punya dokumen tersangkut dekat pejabat kerajaan, tak boleh nak claim. So and business tak boleh nak masuk. So that's the key thing lah. So Tab, dia nak bagi sikit lagi workload pada Raja Faris sebelum dia nak fikir kan. Dia punya projek muhibah strategi yang keempat dia tu. So all our input. What do you need? What your industry need? I don't know whether your industry can be helped.
From the WhatsApp groups that I'm on kan, a lot of them are also worried now, as mentioned tadi. Banyak kan statutory payments are due soon already, and they don't have the cash flow to be able to do that, you know. So these are the kind of thing, not only rental kan, you know, but a lot of statutory payments are due, quick rent lah and all that sort of stuff. But some, and as you say lah, some of this tak sasar industri kan, some dapat, some tak dapat, and some apply tak dapat and all that sort of kind of thing. So and a lot of the issues are, it's not just the companies, you know. If I'm looking at it, I'm also looking at the people that they've been employed, the people that they have now not employed anymore, the people that have been kept on standby. Okay, maybe we a lot of the industry is also on part-time workers kan, and they have not been able to take these part-time workers back anyway, you know. So a lot of people are struggling out there, not only the companies themselves, but a lot of people down there. But if you look at the request tadi, katalah for landlords to give, landlords themselves are having problems as well. Banyak kan big companies or even people who own shop houses, they rely on the rental to a certain extent for their own cash flow, and that's not been coming for a long time as well. A lot of people have not been paying their rent, so diorang pun having problem. Kalau government suruh tak collect rent lagi lah pula macam mana, you know. So it's not as Boon cakap tadi lah, it's not all the properties are owned by the crown kan.
At least when
like in the middle of London kan, the crown owns all.
No, since you are a banker, if the banker you tak bayar the repayment, at least you know you don't have to macam charge the rent lah. Macam ask the government to give all macam dulu automatic say moratorium, rather than you have to ask for it. Itu yang Datuk Maidin cakap lah, macam malu lah macam nak minta, you have to opt in rather than you opt out. Kalau you tak nak.
Bank's moratorium pun you got to apply. It's not
exactly.
Yeah, so
why don't you give
yeah. But even then, it's not free. Bank's moratorium pun ujung instead of bayar over 30 years, you're going to bayar over 23 years instead.
Yeah.
You still have to pay at some other point of time, you know.
Why can't bank do the national service?
And some of it eventually is, instead of paying $800 a month, eventually when you start paying, you have to pay $1,000 a month. So it depends on what options you take. So it's not free, you know. The moratorium that you tak bayar maknanya you tak bayar sampai tak bayar. You kena bayar juga. In fact, the principal actually grows up as well. Sorry, I'm an accountant as well, you know. So I'm looking at it from that point of view. There's no such thing as a free ride, you know. Ujung-ujung, banks still need to put into their P&L what this moratorium, so much losses and whatever. Tapi it's still there, you know. Tengoklah last year, at the end of last year, most of the banks still reported making some handsome profits nevertheless. But what will happen eventually, ni dah different subject lah kan. What will happen eventually is that all these companies that go bad will become problem loans. So right now, it looks as if it's okay because they do not have to pay. Tapi eventually when they have to pay, they cannot pay. Then what happens? So some of these things are just delayed problems. And I tend to think that this is only the start of the problem. Yeah, there's going to be how we boleh menang bersama. It's going to take a lot of effort, and as Chris mentioned just now, it's a lot about working together, working not only together, even the government agencies working together, the ministers working together, the everybody working together with the people at problem, people who are the pharmacists, people who are lawyers, people who are having restaurants, coffee. We need to
Exactly.
start
So
talking to them
what
and
kind of
figure out
bank
what we
working
need to do together in solving these issues. And
what kind of bank working together by not charging interest, or basically, just reduce your profit lah. At the end of the day, you report just whatever my profit, I'll give it to this guy. In terms of
banks are also owned by shareholders, and you might be a shareholder, you might not be happy about that either.
and just talk to the what shareholders. We shame them.
Banks are not owned by the government, or banks are owned by somebody, and people eventually, and they depend on that, on their pension fund ke, whatever. So your EPF pun invest in CIMB, your EPF pun invest in Maybank,
Or throw back to me lah. You have to make money lah, so I can make my pension lah, macam tu.
It goes back there as well. So it's a money merry-go-round. It's not as simple as that. And but we got to work together at this.
Yes, that's the word. Working together, man. Menang bersama. That's Zafrul punya tagline, man. Happy jam.
Are we?
No, man.
Are we? Because are we?
I don't know, man. Okay, I give back to the future Prime Minister, FM. Prime Minister. Yes, Raja Ahmad Iskandar. How do can you basically, listen, I mean, whatever that they're asking for.
He's got a worried face on his face.
I'm a pragmatic person. I wouldn't give you the moon or the stars. Okay, so I think one by one, I either jot down a few things. Lagi-lagi regarding the land office or government agency not opening itu kan. I think one of our Mekop bros should lead this move of digitizing the government services lah. I think he's the Minister of Comms kan, and Communication Ministry.
Yeah.
So
that's long haul. They're dying now.
Yeah. So this is part and parcel of preparing for the future, but at the same time, you need to open it lah. The whole topic about today is about reopening. So if banks can open, why can't government offices open? So we just need to make sure the risk factor of transmission is low. If the risk factor is medium or high, we need to find ways to mitigate it. So maybe inject some money from the government to retrofit the premise so that the ventilation is better. You use the HEPA filter or whatever to make sure that within the premise, the aliran udara tu wouldn't kena other side. And then manage the number of people lah. So you don't need to operate at 100%. You can operate at 80 or 70 or 60% based on the risk assessment that you've made. So you operate on a hybrid model. Eventually, with the digitization plan, you don't need to go to the premise to have a face-to-face interaction. Right now, we are doing interaction from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. So even in that kind of manner, using technology, you can have you have telemedicine. You can have tele-government servant government service. So those who are more tech savvy can access to the personnel at the premise using technology. You just open up and then you are given a queue. You wait for a while, you can masak kejap or do other things while your turn come out, and then you just come in and then you interact with the person. Those who are less tech savvy, you can go to the premise and then do your business there lah. So that needs to be, like I said earlier, a whole of government approach. It needs to be cross government punya effort, and it can be led by our dear bro, Minister of Comms. Hopefully he's listening. The other one,
The batchmate is here anyway, kan?
yeah, you can send to him. So the underlying matter of tonight is jobs should be the first line of defense, like if you talk about saving the economy or saving livelihoods and saving lives, because the virus will be with us in the long haul. If we cannot make a living, we won't survive until the virus becomes endemic. We might lose our lives before that. 10,000 people are dying in total. We are reaching to 10,000 deaths from COVID. Non-COVID cases, particularly suicides, we are tallying up to 3 deaths a day for the first half of the year. That is quite worrying. So if we don't address the issue of economic survival, that could shoot up and cause more misery to the public. So I think we all agree here that businesses should reopen safely, and jobs will be the main line of defense for our livelihood. So when we have all the infrastructure to reopen the economy, then we can talk about travel bubble. We can start with Langkawi. Have a travel bubble, maksudnya you quarantine first for a certain period that is safe, and then you can go to Langkawi, but you don't go out of Langkawi, and then you return. So that kind of bubble arrangement can be a test bed to reopen other sectors, other domestic tourism sectors throughout Malaysia lah. So if we manage to do that, then we can think about other hotels and other areas of hospitality and tourism. And open air should be considered low risk with basic SOPs. If you have physical distancing with mask on, I think it should be less risky than being indoors in a minister's office. So the whole principle is to operate as close as normal as possible. So what does this achieve? This achieves multiple things. One, you don't need to use as much resources to support businesses. Right now, we are talking about, do we need moratorium? Do we need cash injection to businesses? Why? Because businesses are not able to operate. If you give them leeway to operate, bagi dia sikit ruang to operate kan, at least they have flow of income. And then you just need to fill the gap of the revenue and the cost. So that needs to be looked into. Many have said this. I think our MOF brother might not agree. There's still fiscal room to spend. Our government needs to adopt a fiscal policy like other countries who have gained an advantage in addressing COVID by increasing deficit. We can't talk about fiscal discipline in time of crisis. When we are too worried about fiscal discipline or fiscal whether we can spend or not right now, then we are in danger of underspending, and then we need to spend more in the future to save these businesses and lives and livelihood. Kan? If we track back in budget 2021, we had a rosy picture of how we're going to have a V-shaped recovery.
Oh.
So that somehow molded our thinking of this going to be temporary. We just have to invest this much, and then later we'll get back on track to recovery. What happens? We have multiple lockdowns after that. We have Delta variant, and now everyone is struggling to survive. So basically, there are rooms, there are capacity to increase spending, where can we direct the spending? One is to beef up our healthcare system. This includes when we talk about people punya the hospital capacity, manpower, testing infrastructure, and also quarantining. The other one is to talk about bagi duit kepada businesses so that they can equip the necessary infrastructure to make their premises pandemic proof. And then the other one is to support individuals. So let's say now we have allowed businesses to operate, but there are people who are still not covered, who are left out because they don't have jobs. So these people might need unemployment benefits, social welfare protection programs macam EPF for gig workers. Those kind of thing needs to be looked into so that we cover the whole gamut of sectors and no one is left behind. Barulah kita boleh menang bersama.
Alright. Okay, tapi mungkin dia orang cakap this is not America, this is Malaysia. We got so much limitation, we cannot print money without having inflation problem, or probably Australia. But I think we agree to that.
I just qualify that this is the best time because other countries are spending beyond their amount as well. If we wait later, the rating agency might be harsher on us. Last year was a missed opportunity. This year we still have time. The rating agency might not be as harsh because they understand that we are in a pandemic and we should seize that opportunity to spend as much as we can within our limitations.
All right. Thanks, Rajesh Kanda. But okay, I don't want to elaborate on that. It's a bit long.
We can do comments.
Just on that because okay. Arul Isham is very active. I think he's getting married, but the Jais is closing the door. Very frustrating. So dia banyak quarantine. It's basically talking about the variant Delta is true. Can you see any infection rise again? It's very nice. Yeah. Okay. To credit of the government now, I think our vaccinations are the rate are quite good. I mean the first dose I think only about 22 million. Just first dose about 46% of the population. If you tengok kalau adults population that can take, so it's about 66.8% as at the 3rd of August. Ini just first dose lah. Kalau double dose is basically 23% for the whole population ataupun 33.6% kalau kita ambil above 18. So it's quite high. I mean, it's almost like sampai to the herd immunity of 70 to 80%. At least first dose. I mean, Datuk Maidens were arguing if the first dose pun dah bagi 70%, the efficacy, immunity, whatnot. So why can't we, have some kind of relaxation or they want more, business activities too. But I don't know, but the Delta variant is a bit hard to balance. I'll give everyone probably less about 1 minute, just your last word, what you want to say, before I'll pass to the floor to Tab to basically give concluding remarks. Okay, there are just 3 comments. Why limit registration online candidates, basically Jais. Why not? Okay. GLC should support more. I think they're supporting. I don't know how much you're asking. Yeah. Okay. Yang penting kerjasama. Yeah. Terima kasih. That's probably. Yeah, probably from lawyer dulu. Just your last word. Just your last word. Everyone got last word and Tab basically.
Last word.
Yeah, your last word.
Okay. Saya rasa untuk saya kalau kita tak boleh buka bisnes, kalau by end of this year tak boleh buka bisnes, saya tak tahulah. Kebanyakan industri saya rasa akan collapse lah. So hopefully government will do something lah. Okay.
Okay, terima kasih. But I think KJ was looking at September, I mean, dengan the current vaccination. Tapi cuma dia punya cases masih tinggi lah dengan ICU pun tinggi. So by end of this year, I mean that's basically the government target what? Pretty much on track.
Yeah.
Okay, Zul. what do you want your last
Ya,
word?
kita pun mengharapkan begitulah. Kita pun mengharapkan ekonomi akan dibuka semula dan dan kita juga menghargai saya juga kalau pada pandangan peribadi saya, kita juga menghargai sumbangan ataupun bantuan-bantuan yang telah diberikan oleh kerajaan. Bukan kata tidak langsung membantu ya. Cuma dalam keadaan tertentu mungkin benda itu tidak sampai. So kita mengharapkan keadaan ini akan bertambah baiklah insya-Allah dalam masa sebelum Disember ni lah insya-Allah.
Okay. So don't change the goalpost. December tu dah last. No? There is no more energy, man. So hopefully it can be earlier.
InsyaAllah.
Ya, jual ubat. Apa cerita? Sampai bila? What's your last word, man? You're mute. Farid.
Okay, last words tak ada apa sangat. Only that from time to time kena dengar lah, and then tengok what is real happening in the ground, on the ground lah. Kadang-kadang orang atas ni tak tengok apa benda yang what's really happening. Okay, bila complain kat ataupun ni is not being taken serious. So itu sajalah harapan hopefully we can actually settle all these issues and the economy can be opened back again. Thank you.
Oh, sekejap. Okay, that last kali ada some comment dari tu. Okay.
I don't know lah. I just think that, as I said, I hope everybody works together. Sense and sensibility will fall in, and we will get the people in power to figure out that it's more important about the people, about the country as compared to themselves. I think if we can get that happening, we will be moving. A lot of the countries in the world that have the politics is not about have moved forward. But we are still stuck in the fight among ourselves. I think was mentioned just now, the war is kita gaduh sama kita, and siapa yang mati, siapa yang sakit ujung. So tapi I can go on that one, but it's a political thing. So I think we need to figure out, and hopefully kita as Makops we can put out that leadership and put out that sense and sensibility to all our people in position of power. Hopefully we can guide them to start thinking of the people first. I think that's what we need to do lah. Ramai sangat orang dah suffer, and I don't think you have much savings anymore dah kalau tidak pun. So a lot of people have lost their savings. A lot of people have lost their anything pun. So sekarang apa tadi, how long can it last? Not many can last that long anymore. Yeah, it's worrisome. And for me, looking out there and what's happening in the country, it's kita sendiri, The pandemic is just another problem that we face all the time anyway, but it's been used as an excuse for a lot of things lah, that we cannot do this, cannot do that, and stuff. Banyak orang kerja.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can get very emotional because ramai sangat orang dah suffer, and ramai. And it's orang-orang kita juga.
Okay. The take home basically, thanks tab. One is December. That's it, man. Or earlier.
It was December last year.
December last year. Don't lah. Like that. So people are probably at this. Okay, that's it, man. That's the end. I mean, we cannot be. Okay, that's basically December of last year. I think secondly, you need to basically listen to people. I mean, walaupun kadang-kadang you tak boleh tolong semua, at least kalau you dengar, that's okay. Just open whatever channel. If the third thing is basically complain to people. I mean, this thing we can do. kalau tak keluarkan monetary stuff, I think whatever that we can do, we should be doing lah. And everyone, I think the rakyat is working together. To me, that's I see the beauty of it lah. If there is any positive that I can take is this is a very beautiful country. Where people really try to take care of each other. There are so many food banks, people are collecting money, helping people, you know. I think this is Malaysia that I know. I mean, there is something special about Malaysia that I love, that we have this thing, despite some shortcomings you know, in the political, which is to a certain extent, this is our problem as well, because we appointed them. Okay, the last Syarul, government can instruct, no. Government has to be brutal a bit to the GLC that they own. Instruct them. There are so many markup, I think is, you know, up there in the GLC. So yeah, this is for something they have to look into. But with that, I thank you all the panelists, you know, for spending time almost 2 hours Rabu malam macam ni. Thank you very much, especially Raja Iskandar. This is first time I talk to him, Tab, and everyone for being a bidan terjun panelist. It's not about panelists. We just discuss how we can make things better. No? I don't like blaming people here and there, not the government. But this is basically, this is real story. You know? This is real story, but like Zahira and Farid, you know, they can cut the business. I mean, they kesian the pekerja dia, you know, bukan senang nak cari kerja, nak cari duit. Betul tak? Sometimes very personal. Zahiran kata dia tak boleh nak. Of course, you terasa, I cannot help him. There's nothing much I can do. Apart from doa then everything is okay. But with that, those actually yang watching, dia tak boleh join the conversation or watching afterwards. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. I hope the people out there from the MOF and what is watching this, whatever that you can take, but just beritahu, you know, whatever that you can do immediately, listening to people and stuff like that, you know, open the government, that's do it. Please. With that, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.